Okay, let's talk about something that's, well, it's super frustrating. You've read all the smart self-help books, you've highlighted the best ideas, but for some reason, your life just kind of looks the same. Why is that?
Does this sound familiar? I bet it does. You've got Atomic Habits on your shelf, you know deep work inside and out, you can talk all day about dopamine and habit stacking, and yet you're still hitting snooze, you're still putting off the really important work. It's time we get real about what's going on here.
Now here's the crazy part. The books aren't the problem. The ideas in them, they're legit. They actually work. The reason they fail for so many of us is because they work a little too well, just on the wrong part of our brain. They've stopped being a launch pad and instead have become a really comfy couch.
And this brings us right to what we can call the self-help paradox. This is the idea that the very act of learning about how to change is actually stopping us from, well, from actually changing.
I mean, think about it. When you crack open a book and read about some new productivity hack, you feel it, right? That little jolt of hope and clarity. It feels like you're already making progress. But why does that feeling show up before you've even lifted a finger?
Okay, so here is the trap. Your brain, it turns out, isn't great at telling the difference between learning about doing something and actually doing it. Just reading gives you a nice little dopamine hit. It feels like progress, but with none of the hard stuff. None of the effort, the discomfort, or the risk of actually failing.
This quote just nails it. That good feeling, it gets addictive. We get stuck just preparing to do the work because preparing feels safe. It's a place to hide from the slow, messy, and honestly, often boring reality of doing the real work.
And this leads us to something even deeper. It's not just that we're chasing a good feeling. It's also that we're running away from something that feels, well, dangerous.
Here's the hard truth, plain and simple. Our brains are hardwired for safety, and learning from a book is 1,000 times safer than taking one small step in the real world where you might actually stumble. Think about it like this. As long as you're just reading about becoming a more disciplined person, you get to believe you are that person. It's a nice story you tell yourself, but the second you take action, and maybe you skip the gym on day 3, that whole identity gets threatened. See, books protect your self-image, taking action puts it on the line. And this just creates this awful loop, right? The gap between what you know and what you do creates this low-level pain. And to make that pain go away, what's the first thing we do? We buy another book. Learning stops being about transformation and starts being a way to make ourselves feel better in the moment.
So, if we're all stuck in this loop, how on earth do we break out? Well, it's going to take a totally different way of thinking about growth and how we use these books.
Here are 3 rules. They're simple, but man, they are powerful. First, we flip the script. Act first, then read to help that action along. Second, we change our goal. We're not looking for inspiration anymore. We're looking for a challenge. And third, we use a really strict rule for actually applying what we learn.
So let's talk about reading for friction. Look, inspiration feels amazing, but friction is what's actually useful. A good book should make you feel a little uncomfortable. It should point to something you're doing and force you to rethink it. If nothing in your day-to-day changes after reading a chapter, then that chapter was just entertainment, not education. And this brings us to the 117 rule. It's simple. After you read a chapter, if you cannot name one specific action you will do every day for the next 7 days, you have to stop reading, period. You don't need any more information. You need to integrate what you've already learned. You know, ultimately, when you start applying these rules, it's not just about changing your habits. It's about fundamentally changing your identity from someone who just learns stuff to someone who actually does stuff. So you have the consumer who collects ideas and waits for that perfect moment of clarity. And then you have the practitioner. The practitioner just repeats actions, fails a bunch, and through that entire messy process, they earn their clarity. You see, clarity doesn't come before you act, it comes because you act. And here's this beautiful, totally counterintuitive idea. We're always chasing excitement, but real, lasting growth happens when that new, difficult habit becomes so automatic that it's actually kind of boring. Boredom is a sign of success. It means your brain has finally accepted it. It means you've won. So the solution here, it's not waiting for you on a bookshelf. You do not need another system, another framework, or another book to finally change your life. The truth is, you already know enough to get started. What you're missing isn't more information, it's proof. It's the proof to yourself that you can do it, and that only comes from taking one tiny, imperfect action. So, the next time you get that itch,
that urge to go buy another self-help book, I want you to just pause and ask yourself this one simple question. What action am I avoiding right now? Then go do that thing, even if you do it badly, because that right there, that's how real change actually begins.